Come on, come in. Welcome, welcome.
What's up, everyone? We're back. I have missed this. We've been gone for like almost 2 weeks. I think it's been almost 2 weeks since the last live. And I am happy to be back. Vacation's great, but sometimes you just like to get back into your, rhythms. I know. I actually kind of wish I did all of Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers too. I really wish I did that more. Revenant, thank you for the gifted membership. Who got it? Ooh, Captain Eagleetto. Nice. I love that. Congrats. Last live was August 13th. It's been almost 2 weeks. Right? 11 days? No, 12 days. Wow. Welcome. It wasn't really vacation. It was just me reading on the beach. Yeah. It was good, though. It was a good book. Return of the King was about a different author? What king? Oh, Return of Stephen King. Oh, he's trying to get me to read Stephen King. I know. My life is meaningless without live streams either. What's up, guys? Good to see your guys' names in the chat again. Actually, okay. Hot take. I'm not the biggest beach person. But reading on the beach is great. No complaints there. But give me a good woods or like just put me under a tree and let me read. There's a willow tree in my neighborhood or in my park all the way over there. And me and Wes will go there, and there's right by a stream, and Wes will go swim, and I'll just sit and read. And that's life. That is life. I went down to the beach down in South Carolina where they talk with southern accents. If books weren't, paper, reading in the ocean would be great. Revenant, thank you for the 1 month. The wizard is never late. He arrives exactly when he intends, which is generally after someone else handled the bill. What's up, guys? As always, we're gonna just chill for about 15 minutes until we start reading. And this chapter is long. I just looked it up, and it's like 30 pages. So this is gonna be a long live stream this morning, or at night, wherever you're at. But it's morning-ish, maybe. It's 11. Home state, South Carolina. Nice. I love that. This chapter has funny bits. Okay, good. I'm good. I'm glad. I need some funny. Also, everyone like the stream. I always hate saying that because it's annoying. But like the stream. And that's all. You can share it too. I think that does something. It's just I don't know where you can share it. Everyone just share it on the Discord. I actually got to share this on the Discord. Or just share it. Just text it to your friend. Don't switch Minas Morgul. Oh, I gotta change this. We're at Minas Tirith. In the Discord, I've been changing the name of the channel for every location we've been in. And because we're in Minas Tirith now, I gotta change it to Minas Tirith. Done and done. Atlantic beaches are better than the Pacific beaches, mainly because the water is warm. And oh, guys, crazy story. When we were swimming, hold on, get back to this. We were swimming one night, and all of a sudden we were in the ocean. We saw a bunch of fish, like a school of fish, just like streaming everywhere, and it was crazy. And then all of a sudden, probably like 30 yards from us, we saw a fin. I was like, is that a dolphin or is that a shark? And then it was a shark that breached the water and leapt up and grabbed a fish in midair. And it was a blackfin shark. It was about 5 feet long. And we were pretty close to it. And so as soon as we saw that, we said, nope, we're getting out of the water. And that was pretty crazy. It was actually kind of terrifying, but it was pretty cool at the same time. We found some shark teeth on the beach. My brother found some shark teeth. He's like a savant at finding shark teeth. And there wasn't a ton of shark teeth on this beach, but there were a few. So he found them. Yeah. Dude, honestly, okay, I will say if you see a dolphin, you're kind of safe, but you're not. Dolphins are actually like the jerks of the ocean. No one likes a dolphin in the ocean. And this is crazy because we were down there last year too, and we saw dolphins and we tried to swim with them. I was probably like 20 yards from a dolphin. It was pretty cool in the wild. But then we came home and we looked up a story, and there was a story of a dolphin assaulting in a inappropriate way a human that tried to swim up to it. What the heck? Dolphins are the jerks of the ocean. Yeah, they don't eat you like sharks, but they do other things to you. Dolphins are terrifying. They're like some of the smartest animals ever, but they're actually kind of terrifying. Yeah, in our heads, in everyone's head. Yeah, orcs are definitely the orcs. Orcas are the worst. Although I've heard orcas don't really have any natural predators, except I heard that sperm whales hate them, and that sperm whales literally just try to like disrupt their hunting just because they're annoying. Yeah, dolphins are just smart enough to be cruel, honestly. Yeah. Wait, someone just said something. I want to say that I never read anything by Tolkien in English. If anything goes well, soon I'll get my hands on the first English copy of Lord of the Rings. Nice, I love that. Do any of you? That's actually an interesting question. Translations of books translations of books, and if you read a story in another language, it definitely has that flavor, like the original languages that it was written. For a while I wanted to learn French because I loved French authors, and I was like, I want to read The Count of Monte Cristo in French. I want to read who else was it? What's his face? Who wrote The Plague? Camus. I wanted to read Camus in French. I wanted to read Les Mis in French. There's some really good books in French that I really liked French authors, and I wanted to learn French, but never did. So that's the end of that story. Never trust a species that smiles all the time. Honestly, valid. The Count of Monte Cristo is so good. It's such a good book, but it's so different from book to movie and show and all that kind of stuff. Partner is German, and originally read The Lord of the Rings in German. Cecilia, you know what? Les Mis is a long book. There's a few books that actually say that you shouldn't read the unabridged version. And sometimes these classics, you should not read the unabridged version of classics. It's not worth it. Because Les Mis gives like chapters of the Paris sewer system. I mean, to each their own. Maybe you really like that, but that's not my cup of tea. Wow, you're in unabridged version rather than abridged? That's actually interesting. I kind of was that for a while, but then I realized editors sometimes know what they're doing. Honestly, editors get a bad rap. Sometimes they're crap editors, and like, you know, if you really love a story or a story really like explodes, then you just want all the stuff that the author put in there that they were creating. But sometimes editors know boring stuff. Editors know story pacing really well. And authors sometimes gush about their stories. Wow, you actually like the unabridged version of Les Mis? That's a tough one. How about the unabridged version of Moby Dick? That's a different one. That's a different beast, because doesn't he give like chapters on whaling history? I've never read The Princess Bride. We'll add it to the list. Ryan, you're just going to keep putting in Stephen King references here. Just subtly indicating that I should read Stephen King in the unabridged version as intended, as the author intended. Mopey Richard. Also, everyone like the stream because it'll get up to more Lord of the Rings fans. And that'd be sweet. All right, here's the question for the day before we start reading. We're going to read in 10 minutes. Other than Lord of the Rings, which I'm sure is everyone's favorite book here, what would you say is the best book ever written? Not your favorite. Actually, you could do either. You could answer it either way. What is in your opinion either the best book ever read or best book ever written? The best book that you've ever read or your favorite book? Bible. It's got some beautiful literature in there. Les Mis is up there. Interesting. I liked Les Mis. It definitely wasn't one of my favorites. I liked Anna Karenina a lot more than I liked Les Mis, or a lot more than I liked Pride and Prejudice. Ooh, Pride and Prejudice just mentioned. Cormac McCarthy. Interesting. That's an interesting pick. Man, I keep bashing Pride and Prejudice. I like Pride and Prejudice. I haven't read that for a while. Maybe we'll do that on the channel. Captain Corelli's Mandolin? Huh. Never even heard of that. All Quiet on the Western Front. Huh. You don't have to read classics. Okay, we got some people who are battling with Pride and Prejudice here. Blood Meridian was a tough one for me to get through. I do like McCarthy. I never read No Country for Old Men. The movie was one of the greatest movies ever. It was terrifying, so good. Love Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird is the greatest, or as my friend calls it, How to Kill a Mockingbird. Canterbury Tales, interesting. I was not a Canterbury Tales first person. I kind of got bored of that. We read it in high school and I was not into it. I had to read, I forgot what part I read. But one of my English teachers in high school played a cruel prank on me. We had to read Romeo and Juliet. Why couldn't I think of that for a second? We had to read Romeo and Juliet, and we each got a different part in the class. And I was like not in a reading phase. I was a freshman in high school. I was just into sports, and I was like an annoying kid. And she cruelly gave me the priest's parts in that one because he has the longest parts. He like goes on long page-long soliloquies and like dialogues with people, and he's really wordy. And I had to sit there and read all these words, and I wasn't a good reader and embarrassed myself in class all the time. Never liked her as a teacher. She wasn't great. Oh, Space Trilogy. We're jumping into the Space Trilogy soon. I have so many books that I want to read and do on this channel. Space Trilogy, I think Game of Thrones is probably coming next. I'll start that soon. A lot of Brandon Sanderson. I want to read Asimov, Foundation, Space Trilogy. You cannot bash children's books. It doesn't matter what they are. I mean, you're on the right channel if we want to just talk about children's literature for a bit, because children's literature is the best literature. I'm convinced of it. I was going to write an essay on that, actually. I have a half-written essay on that. Children's literature, children's authors are some of the best authors in the world. June, give me your opinion on this. I don't know, how much have you read Lord of the Rings? I don't know if you've read Lord of the Rings, but would you say, because I just made the video on this, would you say that A Storm of, what was it? What's the book? A Storm of Swords is the best cliffhanger of any book ever. Because I checked it out on Reddit and people said that that's the best cliffhanger of any book. but I don't know. Yeah, I have way too many on my to read list. I haven't read Dune though, so Dune is definitely on the list too. I'm actually pretty pumped to read Dune. I know there's a lot of mixed opinions on that, but I'm very excited to read Dune. Scarlet Pimpernel, great. A Storm of Swords, thank you. I know. I gotta whenever I do I am gonna incorporate probably Game of Thrones sooner. Would you guys be interested if I did Game of Thrones live reads? Like, how many of you are actually into Game of Thrones? Maybe we're just gonna. I mean, this channel is just like very booky, so whatever books there are. But I'm kind of tempted to do live reads of those, but I don't know how popular they'd be. Like, that's why it's different. I don't want to just drop. I don't want I legitimately would just do a live stream if there's like 5 people that watch, but Lisa and Olga Eve. Like, it would be fun to, if you haven't read Game of Thrones, to just like read along with me. That's what I eventually want us to do. Like, we're a bunch of, like, right now this channel is mainly Tolkien and like a little bit of Harry Potter and some Brandon Sanderson. But I would say like 98% of the people on here are for Lord of the Rings. And this channel probably will always do Lord of the Rings content, but incorporating other stuff is tough because it's just like changing the channel trajectory a little bit. And it's hard to make videos that actually do well that are on anything else. Game of Thrones might actually work though. Raph read it and just it was meh. Huh. Didn't DNF'd. Maybe we can all just restart. That's like my goal. If we could just like, if you haven't read it, join me in reading it and we'll read it live. I don't know if that'll actually work. We'll see. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is the best. We all know that. Yeah, Tolkien rants. You didn't finish Mistborn? How come? What part did you quit at? I found it pretty like enjoyable. It's an interesting thing too, because I know like there's a difference between female and male. I think Brandon Sanderson probably caters to a larger male audience than female audience, but I don't know. Maybe. I know. Will George R. R. Martin finish? Interesting. God Emperor of Dune? Huh. I know, because Tolkien wrote a lot of stuff. So this is going to be like, next 10 years we're going to be busy with Tolkien stuff. First 4 books of Dune are solid. Okay. When I get to Dune, I'll definitely try to figure some of that kind of stuff out. Harry Potter, Aragon, and Lord of the Rings. Honestly, it's a solid list. I haven't read Aragon, actually. Mountains of Madness. I should read some Lovecraft, too. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, definitely we'll get to the Witcher books. All these books we'll get there, but it might just take years to get there. So everyone have patience. Have the patience of an Ent when you're on this channel, when we're subscribed, because it's going to take me a long time to get to some of these. But we'll get there eventually. When I'm like 80 years old, maybe we'll crack open, some of these, I don't know, some books that we'll finally get to. Huh. I always find this too. When I read books very patiently, I enjoy them a lot more. But it's so hard to read books patiently, to be honest, because sometimes you just want more. When I take my time with a book, I almost always enjoy it. Almost. Twilight Saga, peak literature. Ooh, yeah, finish C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy. And then when I start reading it, come back and we'll read it. We'll read it together. I want to do that one soon. I want to do Narnia soon too. Holes is a great book. I don't know if you're saying that facetiously, but Holes is great. Holes is actually a great book. There's some like, there is some teen lit that is just peak. It's so good. Man, hated Holes. Holes is great. Great movie too. I know. Eventually, that honestly, I probably will do that. I'll probably do another reread. Like when I finish everything, when I finish the Silmarillion, I'll probably do a reread of Lord of the Rings and make more video essays about Lord of the Rings, like with the Silmarillion in mind, because I think it'd be really, really fascinating. I know I started to do the Percy Jackson books. I'm on the second one. I need to get back to that. And Nemo, I will get back to that soon. I promise. I ended at one of the craziest cliffhangers of that book. That was actually wild. The second book ends in a wild way, and then I just didn't pick it up. Yeah, Till We Have Faces is Lewis's best. That was probably my favorite Lewis book. I haven't read a series of Unfortunate Events either. Honestly, Nemo, I would be down for that. That'd be sweet. That would actually be, that's like, this is a dream. Okay, we're going to read in a second. Sorry, we've been going on for too long. We're going to read in a second, but that'd be fun if some of you like guided me through books. Series of Unfortunate Events is like a kids' Children of Hurin. That's actually hilarious. All right, we're gonna get to reading because this is a long chapter. This is like a 30-pager, like an hour. I was checking out the listen, and it's like an hour and a half. I think it's one of the longer chapters in the book. So let's get into that. Minas Tirith. Everyone like to stream. Get it out to more Tolkien people. And I'm pumped to start this. This is great. We're on to The Lord of the Rings, Part 3, The Return of the King. I get a fresh, crisp book. I was very happy to retire The Two Towers because that book was falling apart. So it's nice to have a fresh, clean book. But probably within like a week, I'm going to demolish this book. All right. There's a synopsis before. I'm not going to read the synopsis. Any of you do that? Any of you read the entire, like you start at like the publishing information and you read everything? I don't know many people that do that, but I used to do that. Book 4. Book 5. Sorry, book 5. Got to reread this. The Lord of the Rings. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone. 9 for mortal men doomed to die. 1 for the Dark Lord on his dark throne. In the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them. 1 ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, find them. In the land of Mordor, where the shadows lie. Anybody else have chills? Ooh, gosh. It's actually so scary. All right, here we go. Chapter 1. We got the pencil. We're ready. Chapter 1 of The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Minas Tirith. Pippen looked out from the shelter of Gandalf's cloak. He wondered if he was awake or still sleeping. Still in the swift-moving dream in which he had been wrapped so long since the great ride began. So we're back on their horse ride. The dark world was rushing by, and the wind sang loudly in his ears. He could see nothing but the wheeling stars. And away to his right, vast shadows against the sky, where the mountains of the south marched past. Sleepily, he tried to reckon the times and stages of their journey, but his memory was drowsy and uncertain. Dude, he's been on probably a multi-day journey. My guy is tired. Sorry. I was just checking my camera didn't die. I got a new battery in my camera that it's just like a plug-in battery, so it should never die. But I thought I saw a blackout screen for a second. All right, let's keep going. There had been the first ride at terrible speed without a halt. And then in the dawn, he had seen a pale gleam of gold. And they had come to the silent town and the great empty house on the hill. That is the Golden Hall? The pale gleam of gold. That's Edoras, right? Yeah, that's Edoras? Okay, good to know. That's a cool description of it without just saying Edoras. I like that. Ooh, yes. If you have illustrations, send them. Throw them in the Discord. And hardly they had reached its shelter when the winged shadow had passed over once again. Gosh. And men wilted with fear. But Gandalf had spoken soft words to him, and he had slept in a corner, tired but uneasy, dimly aware of comings and goings, and of men talking and Gandalf giving orders. And then again riding in the night. This was the third night since he had looked into the stone. And with that hideous memory, he woke fully and shivered, and the noise of the wind became filled with menacing voices. A light kindled in the sky, a blaze of yellow fire behind dark barriers. Pippen cowered back, afraid for a moment, wondering into what dreadful country Gandalf was bearing him. He rubbed his eyes, and then he saw that it was the moon rising above the eastern shadows, now almost at the full. Oh, hold on. Okay, let's do a time thing. Full moon. When Frodo goes out of the window on the west and he looks up at the moon with Faramir, was it a full moon? When let's figure out the moon phases. Oh, so read and find out. I know. No, just answer me. I want to figure this out. It probably is, but it had to have been. Probably a full moon then. So this is around the same time. Or probably close to it. Probably within a day or so. Frodo and Sam are on their way to Ithilien? Interesting. Okay. So this is maybe a little bit before. Maybe like 2-3 days before. All right. Also, I took a sneak peek, and I guess book 5 is everything but Frodo and Sam. We have to wait for book 6 to hit Frodo and Sam again, which is kind of crazy. Around 24 hours. Okay. Detailed chronology in the appendices. I love that. That's what I need. But I'm not going to get there yet. All right, here we go. So the night was not yet old, and for hours the dark journey would go on. He stirred and spoke. "Where are we, Gandalf?" he asked. "In the realm of Gondor," the wizard answered. "The land of Anorian is still passing by." The land of Anorian. Who's that? There was silence again for a while. Then, "What is that?" cried Pippin suddenly, clutching at Gandalf's cloak. "Look, fire! Red fire! Are there dragons in this land? Look, there is another." For answer, Gandalf cried aloud to his horse. "On, Shadowfax, we must hasten. Time is short. See, oh, the beacons of Gondor are alight, calling for aid." They light the beacons already? Hold on. Oh, Michael, thank you for the $10. You're incredible. Enjoy work. Gandalf has a great quote to Pippen that PJ didn't include in the movies. I'm pumped, excited. The beacons are lit already? This might have to be an essay. What the heck? I was excited for Pippen to light those, but hey, Gondor knowing that they need aid and Denethor not being crazy already, that's like a little indication. That was one of the greatest parts in the movie. Gondor calls for aid, and Rohan will answer. That was great. Greg, thanks for the $5. That's incredible. You guys are the best. Truly. Wow. Changes the character of Denethor a ton. Already. That's wild. They're already lit. I love that he thinks that they're dragons, too. This is kind of cool. For answer, Gandalf cried aloud to his horse. On, Shadowfax, we must hasten. Time is short. See, the beacons of Gondor are alight, calling for aid. War is kindled. See, there is the fire on Amondine, and flame on Eilenach, and there they go, speeding west. Nardul, Erelas, Minramon, Caladon, Calenhad, and Halifirian on the borders of Rohan. They can see all these? That's actually kind of crazy. Oh my gosh, you guys are the best. Shadowrun, thank you for the 10. Yeah, guys, if there's 10 things we could do, I'll do a trivia night. Well, I mean, we'll eventually do it, but this is a cool scene. How do they see that far? Huh. But Shadowfax paused in his stride, slowing to a walk. And then he lifted up his head and neighed. And out of the darkness, the answering neigh of other horses came. And presently the thudding of hooves was heard. And 3 riders swept up and passed like flying ghosts in the moon and vanished into the west. Then Shadowfax gathered himself together and sprang away, and the night flowed over him like a roaring wind. I mean, read and find out, but what the heck is this? No one's faster than Shadowfax. Shadowfax better catch up and see who these people are. Pippin became drowsy again and paid little attention to Gandalf, telling him of the customs of Gondor. Uh-oh, that's going to come back and bite him in the butt, I'm sure. Pippin should have listened to the customs of Gondor. And how the lord of the city had beacons built on the tops of the outlying hills along the borders of the Great Range, and maintained posts at these points where fresh horses were always in readiness to bear his errand riders. Oh, interesting. The lord of the city had beacons built on tops of outlying hills along the borders of the Great Range, and maintained posts at these points where fresh horses... Oh, so these are horses coming down from lighting the beacons? We're always in readiness to bear his errand riders to Rohan in the north, or to Belfalas in the south. It is long since the beacons of the north were lit, he said. In the ancient days of Gondor, they were not needed, for they had 7 stones. Pippin stirred uneasily. Oh my gosh, guys, thank you for the $10. Thank you, Portia, and thank you, Brian. Wow, guys, this is blowing my mind. You guys are the best. Oh, so they're going in the other direction right now. Interesting. So they're going into the west. That's right. Okay, so they're going to the west. Errand Rider is just going to run errands. Go get Denethor's groceries. Hmm. Huh. All right, well, let's see what they're doing. I like Pippen stirred uneasily. He wants to see that stone again. I want that. Sleep again and do not be afraid, said Gandalf, for you are not going to like Frodo. For you are not going like Frodo to Mordor, but to Minas Tirith, and there you will be as safe as you can be anywhere in these days. If Gondor falls or if the ring is taken, then the Shire will be no refuge. Ugh. That's sad. Minas Tirith, as Hagrid would say, no safer place. But do not comfort me. Or you do not comfort me, said Pippin, but nonetheless sleep crept over him. The last thing that he remembered before he fell into a deep dream was a glimpse of high white peaks, glimmering like floating isles above the clouds as they caught the light of the westering moon. He wondered where Frodo was, and if he was already in Mordor, or if he was dead. And he did not know that Frodo, from far away, looked on the same moon as it set beyond Gondor ere the coming of the day. Read and find out. There it is. There you go. That's crazy. That's cool. That's sad for Pippin. It is truly sad. I don't think you really realize this in the movies because the scenes flip back and forth to each other so much. These characters really don't know each other's fate. They probably think that they're all dead. That's interesting. Sorry, taking a note. The steward needs fresh tomatoes. What need has Denethor of groceries? Great lines. Bergil once brought his father a bruised tomato. Now he always takes his anger out in the tomatoes. Juiced, enjoy dinner. Hopefully you won't eat any tomatoes. All right, let's keep reading. Pippin woke to the sound of voices. Another day of hiding and a night of journey had fleeted by. It was twilight. The cold dawn was at hand again, and chill gray mists were about them. Shadowfax stood, steaming with sweat, but he held his neck proudly and showed no sign of weariness. Many tall men heavily cloaked stood beside him, and behind them, in the mist, loomed a wall of stone. Partly ruined it seemed, but already before the night was past, the sound of hurried labor could be heard. Beat of hammers, clink of trowels, and the creak of wheels. What are they building a wall for? Torches and flares glowed dully here and there in the fog. Gandalf was speaking to the men that barred the way, and as he listened, Pippin became aware that he himself was being discussed. Yea, truly, we know you, Mithrandir, said the leader of the men. And you know the password of the 7 gates, and are free to go forward. But we do not know your companion. What is he? A dwarf out of the mountains in the north? We wish for no strangers in the land at this time, unless they be mighty men of arms, in whose faith and help we can trust. I will vouch for him before the seat of Denethor, said Gandalf. And as for valor, that cannot be computed by stature. He has passed through more battles and perils than you have, Ingold. Though you be twice his height, and he comes now from the storming of Isengard, of which we bear tidings, and great weariness is on him, or I would wake him. His name is Peregrine, a very valiant man. This is beautiful. Gandalf actually secretly loves Pippin. I will say this too. In the movies, ooh, Factor Fantasy, Gibby, yes, 100%. I would, dude, 100% we're going to do that. I'm in. Totally in. In the movies, Gandalf seems always annoyed by Pippen, which is kind of cute in the movies. In the book, he has genuine affection and love. Like, in the movie, it seems like Gandalf only really comes to Hobbiton because he has an intrigue for hobbits, and he just likes Bilbo and Frodo. In the book, it seems like he genuinely loves these little creatures and thinks the world of them. That's actually really beautiful. I love this. Yeah, like a grandkid. That's actually a great way to put it. That's beautiful. Also, everyone like the stream. Like the stream. Man, said Ingold dubiously. And the others laughed. Man, cried Pippin, now thoroughly roused. Man, indeed not. I am a hobbit, and no more valiant than I am a man. Save perhaps now and again by necessity. Do not let Gandalf deceive you. Many a doer of great deeds might say no more, said Ingold. But what is a hobbit? A halfling, answered Gandalf. Nay, not the ones that was spoken of. Not the one that was spoken of, he added, seeing the wonder in the men's faces. Not he, yet one of his kindred. I love that hobbits are literally legends to these men. Like Rohan and Gondor are like, what are these creatures? Yes, as one who journeyed with him, said Pippin. And Boromir of your city was with us, and he saved me in the snows of the north. And at the last he was slain defending me from many foes. Rest in peace, Boromir. Peace, said Gandalf. The news of that grief should have been told first to the father. It has been guessed already, said Ingold. For there have been strange portents here of late. But pass on now quickly, for the Lord of Minas Tirith will be eager to see any that bear the latest tidings of his son, be he man or hobbit, said Pippin. Little service can I offer your lord, but what can I do, I would, remembering Boromir the brave. Hold on, I'm going to wait till my fire thing goes off. No, it's not a train, it's my fire station. I live next to a fire station, and they blare that horn all the time. You know, all right. They do what they can. Huh. In the movies, Gondor is caught with its pants down. In the books, not so. They have walls and other outer walls. Yeah, honestly, Gondor is kind of like Reading, because they haven't even seen the... They light the beacons after they see that green thing go up in the air. Right? Do they? Do they light it before that? But Gandalf has to do it. Gondor seems like they're... That's the horn of Gondor. That's so good. And every time that pops up now, I'm going to call that the horn of Gondor. Thank you for that. Yeah, Gondor just seems like they're much better prepared than they were in the movies. But we'll find that out more as we go on. Gimli blowing the horn again. Boromir's alive. He's out there somewhere. This is the land of Gondor too. Okay. Fare you well, said Ingold. And the men made way for Shadowfax, and he passed through a narrow gate in the wall. May you bring good counsel to Denethor in his need, and to us all, Mithrandir, Ingold cried. But you come with tidings of grief and danger, as is your wont, they say. As is your wont. Huh. Because I come seldom when my help is needed, answered Gandalf. And as for counsel, to you I would say that you are over late in repairing the wall of the Pelennor. Courage will now be your best defense against the storm that is at hand. That and such hope as I bring. For not all the tidings that I bring are evil. But leave your trowel and sharpen your swords. The work will be finished ere evening, said Ingold. This is the last portion of the wall to be put in defense, the least open to attack, for it looks toward our friends of Rohan. Do you know aught of them? Will they answer the summons, think you? I like how they talk. Yes, they will come, but they have fought many battles at your back. This road and no road looks towards safety any longer. Be vigilant. But for Gandalf Stormcrow, you would have seen a host of foes coming out of Anorian, and no riders of Rohan. And yet you may. Fare you well, and sleep not. Dang. Yeah, Gondorians talk fancy. Ryan with the puns. That's such a dad joke. That is a great dad joke. Huh, okay. Let's keep reading. Ingold. I wonder if he's going to come back up in the story. I hope so. I like these side characters, these little side quests. I like more of that. Gandalf passed now into the wide land beyond the Ramas Echor. So the men of Gondor called the outwall that they had built with great labor, after Ithilien fell under the shadow of their enemy. For 10 leagues or more it ran from the mountain's feet, and so back again, enclosing in its fence the fields of Pelennor, fair and fertile townlands, on the long slopes and terraces falling to the deep levels of the Anduin. At its furthest point from the great gate to the city, northeastward, the wall was 4 leagues distant, and there from a frowning bank it overlooked the long flats beside the river. And men had made it high and strong, for at that point upon a walled causeway the road came in from the fords and bridges of Osgiliath, and passed through a guarded gate between battle towers. At its nearest point the wall was a little more than 1 league from the city, and that was southeastward. There Anduin, going in a wide knee about the hills of Emin Arnon in South Ithilien, bent sharply west, and the outwall rose upon its very brink, and beneath it lay the quays and landings of the Harland, for craft that came upstream from southern fiefs. Fiefs, that's the first time that word's been used in this book. Little fiefdoms. That's cute. Pronounced K's. Okay. Where is that word? Okay. Fief. Fief. Pronunciation is, you can pronounce a word however you want. That's always my theory. So there is actually hold on. I need to figure out this map in my head. There is a wall that seems to navigate through the Pelennor fields to Osgiliath. There are towns in the Pelennor. So the Pelennor is huge. I wish there was a map. Is there something? Should I look up book accurate? Should I look this up? Book accurate Minas Tirith. I want to see this wall. That's another wall. Hold on. Come join me on this journey. One sec. I mean, this is Gandalf riding in. This isn't the wall that they're talking about, though. Isn't there a further outer wall? There's a map in the front of the book that shows the outwalls, really? Type Gondor. Minas Tirith is only the capital. Interesting. Okay. Book accurate. Ramas Echor? Ramas. That's what we need, baby. Okay. So this is Minas Tirith. This is the wall? Oh, and then Osgiliath's right here. Interesting. But Osgiliath is on either side of the river, though. Where's the river? Would the river be running through Osgiliath right here? So this is the outer wall. This is the Pelennor. And there's these little fiefs. Interesting. The H picture is better. What H picture? H picture. Okay, this helps. Minas Tirith. So Ramas Echor. Okay. Harland. Emis Arnon. The White Mountain. Mindal Uin. Okay, so that's interesting. That's the mountain that Minas Tirith is on. And then Osgiliath is here. So Frodo's chilling right there right now. Frodo's probably like up here somewhere, no? And then Pippen here. Okay. This is a cool one. Oh, you know what I could do? I can actually look up. I'm sure he doesn't have a map of this. Ted Naismith. Okay, perfect. That helped actually a ton. I see it in my head now. Beautiful. Let's keep reading. The townlands were rich, with wide tilth and many orchards, and homesteads there were with oast and garner, fold and byre, and many rills ripping through the green from the highlands down to the Anduin. Yet the herdsmen and husbandmen that dwelt there were not too many. And the most part of the people of Gondor lived in the 7 circles of the city. 7 circles, that's cool. Or in the high vales of the mountain border, in Losernack, or further down the fair Lebanon, with its 5 swift streams. There dwelt a hardy folk between the mountains and the sea. They were reckoned men of Gondor, yet their blood was mingled, and they were short and swarthy folk, among them whose sires came more from the forgotten men who housed in the shadow of the hills in the dark years ere the coming of the kings. But beyond, in that great fief of Belfalas, dwelt Prince Imrahil, in his castle of Dol Amaroth by the sea. And he was of high blood, and his folk also, tall men and proud with sea-gray eyes. Huh. There's a lot of lore in there that I don't understand, but I want to come back to that after I finish the Silmarillion. Imrahil. Who is that? Now, after Gandalf had ridden for some time, the light of the day grew in the sky, and Pippin roused himself and looked up. To his left lay the sea of mist, rising to a bleak shadow in the east, but to his right, great mountains reared their heads, ranging from the west to a steep and sudden end, as if in the making of the land, the river had burst through a great barrier, carving out a mighty valley to be a land of battle and debate in times to come. And there, where the white mountain of arid Nimrais came to their end, he saw, as Gandalf had promised, the dark mass of Mount Mindal, the deep purple shadow of its high glens, and its tall face whitening in the rising day. And upon its outthrust knee was the guarded city, with its 7 walls of stone, so strong and old that it seemed to have been not builded but carven by giants out of the bones of the earth. Dang, that's so cool. That's a cool description. Even as Pippin gazed in wonder, the walls passed from the looming gray to white, blushing faintly in the dawn. And suddenly the sun climbed over the eastern shadow and sent forth a shaft that smote the face of the city. Then Pippin cried aloud for the tower of Ecthelion, standing high within the topmost wall, shone out against the sky, glimmering like a spike of pearl and silver, tall and fair and shapely, and its pinnacle glittered as if it was wrought of crystals, and white banners broke and fluttered from the battlements in the morning breeze, and high and far he heard the clear ringing as of silver trumpets. That's like when he goes, and Boromir goes to Aragorn, have you ever been called home by the clearing of the silver trumpets? Dude, that is such a good description. Man, this is fantastic. I'm so happy to be doing this again. This makes me giddy, guys. We have so much of this chapter left too. Let's go. So Gandalf and Baragond rode to the great gate of men of Gondor at the rising of the sun, and his iron doors rolled back before them. Mithrandir, Mithrandir, men cried. Now we know that the storm is indeed nigh. It is upon you, said Gandalf. I have ridden on its wings. Let me pass. I must come to your Lord Denethor while his stewardship lasts. Uh-oh. Whatever betide, you have come to the end of Gondor that you have known. Let me pass. Oh my gosh, Gandalf. You could say maybe more encouraging words to them than that. But I guess he's got to get through. He's got to... That's intense. The men fell back before the command of his voice, and questioned him no further, though they gazed in wonder at him. They gazed in wonder at the hobbit who sat before him, and at the horse that bore him. For the people of the city used horses very little, and they were seldom seen in the streets, save only those ridden by the errand riders of their lord. And they said, surely that is one of the great steeds of the king of Rohan. Maybe the Rohirrim will come to strengthen us. But Shadowfax walked proudly up to the long winding road. For the fashion of Minas Tirith, we're going to learn of how the city was built. For the fashion of Minas Tirith was such that it was built on 7 levels, each delved into the hill, and about each was set a wall, and in each wall was a gate. But the gates were not set in a line. The great gate of the city wall was at the east point of the circuit, but the next faced half south, and the third half north, and so to and fro upwards, so that the paved way that climbed toward the citadel turned first this way, and then that across the face of the hill. And each time that it passed, the line of the great gate went through an arched tunnel, piercing a vast pier of rock, whose huge outthrust bulk divided into all the circles of the city save the first. For partly in the primeval shaping of that hill, partly by the mighty craft and labor of old, there stood up from the rear of the wide court behind the gate a towering bastion of stone, its edge sharp as a ship keel facing east. Up it rose, even to the level of the topmost circle, and there was crowned by a battlement, so that those in the citadel might, like mariners in a mountainous ship, look from its peak sheer down upon the gate 700 feet below. Dang, that's cool. The entrance to the citadel also looked eastward, but was delved into the heart of the rock. Thence a long lamplit slope ran up to the 7th gate. Thus men reached the last of the high court, and the place of the fountain before the feet of the white tower, tall and shapely, 50 fathoms from its base to the pinnacle, where the banner of the stewards floated 1,000 feet above the plain. A strong citadel it was, indeed, and not to be taken by a host of enemies, if there were any within that could hold weapons, unless some foe could come behind and scale the lower skirts of Mindalluin, and so come upon the narrow shoulder that joined the hill of the hill guard to the mountain mass. But that shoulder, which rose to the height of the fifth wall, was hedged with great ramparts, right up to the precipice that overhung its western end. And in that space stood the houses and domed tombs of bygone kings and lords, forever silent between the mountain and the tower. And we know from Faramir that these places are more nice than the actual houses that people live in. Actually, no, he was talking about the Númenóreans there, wasn't he? Was he talking about the Númenóreans? I think he was talking about the Númenóreans. That was their downfall. Yeah, this is an actual fortress. Hold on, I'm looking at the Discord. Give me a sec. Oh, that's the one that it popped up before. This one doesn't have the wall in it, though. Wait, what is this? That's Edoras. That's Edoras. That's definitely Edoras. Oh, here's more. Oh, there we go. There's more pictures. I'll show these pictures a little bit later. The one above it. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. I don't know if it's coming. Both the Númenóreans and the Gondorian kings. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I would get altitude sickness from this city. 100% I'm getting altitude sickness. Dang, this chapter is so long. All right, I gotta keep reading. I gotta for sure have a cutoff at 2 o'clock, so we gotta keep reading. This honestly might take me 2 more hours to read, which is great. I kind of love that. I get some water. Water in my deli container. All right. Pippen gazed in growing wonder at the great stone city, vaster and more splendid than anything that he had dreamed of, greater and stronger than Isengard, and far more beautiful. Yet, it was, in truth, falling year by year into decay, and already it lacked half of the men that it could have dwelt at ease there. In every street they passed, some great house or court over whose doors and arched gates were carved many fair letters of strange and ancient shapes, names Pippin guessed of great men and kindred that had once dwelt there. And yet now they were silent, and no footsteps rang on their wide pavements, nor voice was heard in their halls, nor any face looked out from doors or empty windows. So it's kind of like an empty-ish city. Interesting. At last they came out of shadow to the seventh gate, and the warm sun that has shone down beyond the river, as Frodo walked in the glades of Ithilien. I love that we're getting little flashes to Frodo here, where he is. As Frodo walked in the glades of Ithilien, glowed here on the smooth walls in rooted pillars, and the great archways with keystones carven in the likeness of a crowned and kingly head. Gandalf dismounted, for no horse was allowed in the citadel, and Shadowfax suffered himself to be led away at the soft word of his master. The guards of the gate were robed in black, and their helms were of strange shape, high-crowned, with long cheek guards, close-fitting to the face, and above the cheek guards were set the white wings of seabirds. But the helms gleamed with a flame of silver, for they were indeed wrought of mithril, heirlooms from the glory of old days. So they have mithril helms? That's actually kind of crazy. That's cool. How did they get this mithril? Upon the black surcoats were embroidered in white a tree blossoming like snow beneath a silver crown and many pointed stars. This was the livery of the heirs of Elendil, and none wore it now in all Gondor save the guards of the citadel before the court of the fountain where the white tree once had grown. Is the white tree just not there anymore? Or is it just not growing anymore? Is the white tree not there? Talking about RuneScape, dude. That was a great thing. It was a great moment. All right. Read and find out. Interesting. Okay. All right. Already it seemed that words of their coming had gone before them, and at once they were admitted, silently and without question. Quickly Gandalf strode across the white paved court. A sweet fountain played there in the morning sun, and a sward of bright green lay about it. But in the mist, drooping over the pool, stood a dead tree, and the falling drops dripped sadly from its barren and broken branches back into the clear water. Pippen glanced at it as he hurried after Gandalf. It looked mournful, he thought, and he wondered why the dead tree was left in this place where everything else was well tended. 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree. The words that Gandalf had murmured came back into his mind. And then he found himself at the doors of the great hall beneath the gleaming tower. And behind the wizard he passed the tall silent door wardens, and entered the cool echoing shadows of the House of Stone. They walked down a paved passage, long and empty. And as they went, Gandalf spoke softly to Pippin. Be careful of your words, Master Peregrine. This is no time for hobbit pertness. Theoden is a kindly old man. Denethor is of another sort, proud and subtle. A man of far greater lineage and power, though he is not called a king. Interesting. But he will speak most to you, and question you much, since you can tell him of his son Boromir. He loved him greatly. Too much, perhaps. And the more so because they were unalike. That's interesting. They were similar. That is a bit mind-blowing because in my opinion, or in my view, I thought that they were going to be more like each other. Yeah, that was actually a great one. Theoden is a kindly old man. Denethor is of another sort, proud and subtle. A man of far greater lineage and power, though he is not called king. Denethor is more like Faramir than Denethor. Than Boromir? Faramir in a bad way. Okay, interesting. But under cover of this love, he will think it easier to learn what he wishes from you rather than from me. Do not tell him more than you need, and leave quiet the matter of Frodo's errand. I will deal with that in due time, and say nothing about Aragorn either, unless you must. Why not? What is wrong with Strider? Pippin whispered. He meant to come here, didn't he? And he'll be arriving soon himself anyway. Maybe, said Gandalf. Though if he comes, it is likely to be in some way that no one expects, not even Denethor. It will be better so. At least he should come unheralded by us. Hold on. So he's... Where is this moment? Does Aragorn know that he needs to take the pass? There was a section in the books that talked about that. I think when Gandalf was leaving them, didn't he say that he needs to take some other pass, some other way? Where I'm sure the Green Army is. So no one expects that, but... There's so much read and find out. All right, guys. Gandalf halted before a tall door of polished metal. See, Master Pippin, there is no time to instruct you now in the history of Gondor, though it might have been better if you had learned something of it when you were still birds nesting and playing truant in the woods of the Shire. Do as I bid. It is scarcely wise when to bring news of death to his heir. It is scarcely wise when bringing the news of the death of his heir to a mighty lord to speak over much of the coming of one who will, if he comes, claim the kingship. Is that enough? Kingship, said Pippin, amazed. Yes, said Gandalf. If you have walked all these days with closed ears and mind asleep, wake up now. He knocked on the door. All right, Gandalf's back to his insulting ways. That's actually hilarious. Pippin didn't know who Strider was yet. That's actually kind of funny. The door opened, but no one could be seen to open it. They've got those automatic door openers in Gondor. Pippin looked into a great hall. It was lit by deep windows in the wide aisles at either side, beyond the rows of tall pillars that upheld the roof. Monoliths of black marble. They rose to great capitals, carved in many strange figures of beasts and leaves. And far above in shadow, the wide vaulting gleamed with dull gold, insets with flowing trajectories of many colors. No hangings nor storied webs, nor anything of woven stuff or of wood, were there to be seen in that long solemn hall. But between the pillars there stood a silent company of tall images, graven in cold stone. Suddenly Pippin was reminded of the hewn rocks of Argonath, and awe fell on him as he looked down that avenue of kings long dead. At the far end upon the dais of many steps was set a high throne under a canopy of marble shaped like a crowned helm. Behind it was carved upon the wall and set with gems an image of a tree in flower. But the throne was empty. At the foot of the dais, upon the lowest step, which was broad and deep, there was a stone chair, black and unadorned, and on it sat an old man gazing at his lap. In his hand was a white rod with a golden knob. He did not look up. Solemnly they paced the long floor toward him, until they stood 3 paces from his footstool. Then Gandalf spoke. Hail, Lord and Steward of Minas Tirith, Denethor, son of Ithilien. I am come with counsel and tidings in this dark hour. Then the old man looked up. Pippin saw his carven face with its proud bones and skin like ivory, and the long curved nose between the dark, deep eyes, and was reminded not so much of Boromir as of Aragorn. Huh. Dark indeed is the hour, said the old man, and at such times you are wont to come, Mithrandir. But though all signs forebode that doom of Gondor is drawing nigh, less now to me is that darkness than my own darkness. It has been told to me that you bring with you one who saw my son die. Is this he? It is, said Gandalf. One of the twain. The other is with Theoden of Rohan, and may come hereafter. Halflings they are, as you see. Yet this is not he of whom the omens spoke. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a written spokenly. Gandalf's way of speaking has totally changed in this moment, which is really smart of him, but that's incredible writing. Gandalf is speaking like a Gondorian. He's speaking in higher forms of English. He's speaking exactly as Denethor is speaking to him. He knows he needs to act in this way. He's being respectful, but it's a really interesting bit of writing here. I think that's very hard to do. Because he's still giving Gandalf his own voice. Yeah, he's code switching so well. I love that. That's great. That's a good bit of writing. This Tolkien guy, he's pretty good. He's a pretty good writer. Yet a halfling still, said Denethor grimly. And a little love do I bear the name, since those accursed words came to trouble our counsels, and drew away my son on the wild errand to his death. My Boromir. Now we have need of you. Faramir should have gone in his stead. Whoa! Is he saying that because he wished he was dead? It should have been Faramir all along. Interesting. He loved Faramir, but if one son had to die... Huh. He would have gone, said Gandalf, but not unjust in your grief. Boromir claimed the errand and would not suffer any others to have it. He was a masterful man, and one to take what he desired. I journeyed far with him, and learned much of his mood. But you speak of his death. You have had news of that ere we came. I have received this, said Denethor, and laying down his rod he lifted from his lap the thing that he had been gazing at. In each hand he held up one half of the great horn, cloven through the middle, a wild ox horn, bound with silver. That is the horn of Boromir, or that is the horn that Boromir always wore, cried Pippen. Verily, said Denethor, and in my turn I bore it, and so did each eldest son of our house, far back into the vanished years, before the failing of kings, since Vorandil, father of Mardil, hunted the wild kine of Ara in the far fields of ruin. I heard it blowing dim upon the northern marches 13 days ago. And the river brought it to me. Broken. It will wind no more. It will win no more, probably. He paused, and there was a heavy silence. Suddenly he turned his black glance upon Pippen. What say you to that, halfling? So, first impression, he's a little intense. I mean, I know his son has died, but he's a bit intense. Sorry, Juiced. I think I saw that picture before. Yeah, I saw that picture before, so don't worry. I'm looking at the stuff. Here's the picture. One sec. It's very similar to what the movies have, to be honest. This is definitely a stone carving, but also seems like a creepy guy just kind of watching their conversation. This looks very similar to the movie. They did a good job in the movie. He's a lot older though. He's 89 years old? Wow. That's actually crazy. I did not know he was that old. Yeah, in the movie he was like 50 years old. So this guy's having kids when he's old. Because Boromir and Faramir, like 45, right? They're 40-ish, 45. Denethor, having kids at 50. 89 to an, oh, so he's a Numenorian. He has Numenorian blood. Interesting. So this guy's still like middle-aged. So does that mean Faramir and Boromir have Numenorian blood? So they're like gonna age, so maybe they'll live to like 120 or 130 or something? Oh, that's cool. They live to 250. Dang. But if you have like, wouldn't it be like half Numenorian blood? They're probably not like pure Numenorians, right? Does the blood get a little thinner as the ages go on? So is he like only going to live to like 120 or something? I'm curious if he's going to die in this. We'll see. Does he jump in a fiery ball off the top of the rafters or whatever that is? No one answered that question. Faramir's got the pure Numenorian blood. Absolutely. So it's been diluted. Okay, interesting. Huh. All right, everyone, like the stream too. I'm going to keep reading. 13 days, faltered Pippen. Yes, I think that would be so. Yes, I stood beside him as he blew the horn. But no help came. Only more orcs. So, said Denethor, looking keenly at Pippin's face. You were there. Tell me more. Why did no help come? And how did you escape? And yet he did not, so mighty a man as he was. And only orcs to withstand him. Dang. Doesn't think very highly of orcs. Or he thinks very highly of his son. Pippin flushed and forgot his fear. The mightiest man may be slain by one arrow, he said. And Boromir was pierced by many. When last I saw him, he sank beside a tree and plucked a black feathered shaft from his side. Then I swooned and was made captive. I saw him no more, and know no more. But I honor his memory, for he was very valiant. He died to save us, my kinsman Meriadoc and myself, waylaid in the woods by the soldiery of the Dark Lord. And though he fell and failed, my gratitude is nonetheless. Then Pippin looked the old man in the eye, for pride stirred strangely within him, still stung by the scorn and suspicion in that cold voice. Little service, no doubt, will so great a lord of men think to find in a hobbit, a halfling from the northern shire. Yet such as it is, I will offer it in payment of my debt. Shut up, Pippin, no. Okay, so he actually does this in the book too. Twitching aside his gray cloak, Pippin drew forth his small sword and laid it at Denethor's feet. Huh. A Glasgowian accent? I don't know if I could do a Glasgowian accent. Let me try. Little service, no doubt. That's not a Glasgow. Is that Glasgow? Little service, no doubt, will so great a lord of men think to find in a hobbit, a half from the northern shire. Yet such as it is, I will offer it in payment of my debt. That wasn't that great, but you know, Gandalf and Australian. I am not doing Australian. That wasn't Glasgowian. That was like, I don't know what that was. I'm not a great accent person, but that's the extent of my accent knowledge. A pale smile, like a gleam of cold sun on a winter's evening, passed over the old man's face. But he bent his head and held out his hand, laying the shards of his horn aside. Give me the weapon, he said. Pippin lifted it and presented the hilt to him. Whence came this? Said Denethor. Many, many years lie on it. Oh, he knows this sword. Surely this is a blade wrought by your own kindred in the north, in the deep past. It came out of the mounds that lie on the borders of my country, said Pippin. But only evil wights dwell there now, and I will not willingly tell more of them. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know the difference between Belfast and Glasgowian. That I know there's a difference, but I don't think I could have. I don't have the professional voice acting ability to voice that. Yeah, he doesn't. He seems like he doesn't want to relive the trauma here. That's actually really interesting. Doesn't want to willingly talk about that. I see that strange tales are woven about you, said Denethor. Then once again it is shown that looks may belie the man or the halfling. I accept your service, for you are not daunted by words, and you have courteous speech, strange though the sound of it may be to us in the south. And we shall have need of all folk of courtesy, be they great or small, in days to come. Swear to me now. Take the hilt, said Gandalf, and speak after the Lord if you are resolved on this. I am, said Pippin. The old man laid the sword along his lap, and Pippin put his hand to the hilt, and said slowly after Denethor, Here do I swear fealty and service to Gondor, and to the Lord and Steward of the realm, to speak and to be silent, to do and to let be, to come and to go, in need or plenty, in peace or war, in living or dying, from this hour henceforth, until my Lord release me, or death take me, or the world end. So say I, Peregrine, son of Paladin, of the Shire of the Halflings. And this do I hear, Denethor, son of Ecthelion, Lord of Gondor, Steward of the High Kings. And I will not forget it, nor fail to reward that which is given. Fealty with love, valor with honor, oath-breaking with vengeance. Then Pippin received back his sword and put it in its sheath. Dang, this happened quick. And now, said Denethor, my first command to you, speak and be not silent. Tell me your full tale, and see that you recall all that you can of Boromir, my son. So that was manipulative. Sit now and begin. As he spoke, he struck a small silver gong that stood near his footstool. Are the tomatoes going to come out? He struck a small silver gong that stood near his footstool, and at once servants came forward. Pippin saw then that they had been standing in alcoves on either side of the door, unseen as he and Gandalf entered. You know, actually I was thinking, so in this image, hold on one second. Let me pull this up. Ooh, Tolkien Rants. That's a great image that you just threw in there. Got some phenomenal art. I wish I could do that. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. I want to show you, because I had this thought. Cool image. That is beautiful. I love his look there. This is wrong. Because he's Aragorn's age, no? Is he 2 years older than Aragorn? But Aragorn is young and spry, and this guy looks like Dumbledore right before he's about to die. So they're the same age. All right, read and find out. You know what, guys? All right, fine. That is actually kind of crazy, though. It'll talk about why he looks older. Okay, so there you go. My questions are going to be answered. Tolkien knew my struggles. Where am I? Pippin saw then that they had been standing in alcoves on either side of the door, unseen as he and Gandalf entered. Bring wine and food and seats for the guests, said Denethor, and see that none trouble us for 1 hour. It is all that I have to spare. There is much else to heed, he said to Gandalf. Much of more import, it may seem, and yet to me less pressing. But maybe we can speak again at the end of the day. And earlier it is hoped, said Gandalf, for I have not ridden hither from Isengard 150 leagues with the speed of wind, only to bring you one small warrior, however courteous. It is not to you that Theoden has fought a great battle, and that Isengard is overthrown, and that I have broken the staff of Saruman. It is much to me. But I know already sufficient of these deeds for my own counsel against the menace of the east. He turned his dark eyes on Gandalf, and now Pippin saw a likeness between the two, and he felt the strain between them, almost as if he saw a line of smoldering fire, drawn from eye to eye, that might suddenly burst into flame. I have to say, people, when I was doing all the videos, people were talking about how Denethor is so different from book to movie. At the moment, I think he's the same. Like, he knows more lore, but he's still kind of annoying. Like the movie. I think so. He's definitely colder in the movies or the books. Maybe I'm just reading my movie version into this a little bit, but I don't see that many significant changes at the moment right now, guys. Okay, yeah, true. He lit the beacons. That's actually true. That's a great point. I think he's cold in the books too. Yeah, I've only seen him for a minute. We've literally been hanging out with him for a minute. But just to say that at the moment, I don't think he's that significantly different from book to movie. He's smart. He's much smarter already. He seems like he knows things. But I'll say this. The Denethor, so he has this moment. Okay, so when Pippin is about to swear fealty to him, he brings out this sword, and Denethor smiles. And I think the text makes you think like he's smiling because of the sword, because he sees this sword and he's like, oh, this is interesting. And he's like a lore guy. But it almost seems like he's smiling because now he can force Pippin to tell him the whole story, and Gandalf can't get in the way. He's playing this mental game with Gandalf that seems like it's like a chess match between the two. You know what I mean? Like, it just... He smiles... Did it say he smiled the way Faramir smiled? Maybe I missed that. Okay, it says... Okay, so this. Pippin drew forth his sword and laid it at Denethor's feet. A pale smile, like a gleam of cold sun on a winter's evening, passed over the old man's face. Okay, so he's a bit more... That reading that again, he's a bit more like kind. But he bent his head and held out his hand, laying the shards of the horn aside. Give me the weapon, he said. So he's just more interested in seeing the weapon. So yeah, my first reading of that was probably wrong. So he has a bit, maybe that line shows me he has a bit more kindness, but let me read. Let me read and find out. Denethor looked indeed much more like a great wizard than Gandalf did. More kingly, beautiful and powerful, and older. Yet by a sense other than sight, Pippin perceived that Gandalf had the greater power and deeper wisdom, and a majesty that was veiled. And he was older, far older. How much older, he wondered. And then he thought how odd it was that he had never thought about it before. Treebeard had said something about wizards, but even then he had not thought of Gandalf as one of them. What was Gandalf? In what far time and place did he come into the world? And when would he leave it? And then his musings broke off, and he saw that Denethor and Gandalf still looked at each other in the eyes, as if reading the other's mind, but it was Denethor who first withdrew his gaze. That's actually kind of wild. This little school standoff. They don't like each other. Wow. Okay, I will say this too. I think from Tolkien's perspective, because you're supposed to like Gandalf more, I think this makes you like Denethor less, especially in this moment. Yea, he said, for the stones be lost. For though the stones be lost, they say, still the lords of Gondor have keener sight than lesser men, and many messages come to them. But sit now. He's going to say, bring me tomatoes. If the tomato scene is in the book, I'm going to lose my mind. All right, got to keep reading. We're not even halfway through this. Holy smokes. I got to read maybe a little faster. Yikes. Okay. Then men came bearing a chair and a low stool, and one brought a salver with a silver flagon and cups and white cakes. Pippin sat down, but he could not take his eyes from the old lord. Was it so, or had he only imagined it, that as he spoke of the stones, a sudden gleam of his eye had glanced upon Pippin's face? Now tell me your tale, my liege, said Denethor, half kindly, half mockingly. Denethor is a confusing character, to say the least. Why does he say this half kindly? How do you say something half kindly, half mockingly? Now tell me your tale, my liege. For the words of one whom my son so befriended will be welcomed indeed. Pippin never forgot that hour in the great hall under the piercing eye of the Lord of Gondor, stabbed ever and anon by his shrewd questions, and all the while conscious of Gandalf at his side, watching and listening, and, so Pippin felt, holding in check a rising wrath and impatience. When the hour was over and Denethor again rang the gong, Pippin felt worn out. It cannot be more than 9 o'clock, he thought. I could now eat 3 breakfasts on end. Had one, yes. Had a second, yes. What about third breakfast? I'm making a video essay about that one. Third breakfast. Denethor first impressions too. I was going to say this. Also, hold on. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep going for about an hour. I don't know if we're going to finish the chapter. If we don't, then I'm going to stop the stream and I'll pick it up later tonight. Probably like 7 or 8. And we'll finish the last few pages. But I have to go at like 2. A little earlier than 2, actually. So I don't think we're going to be able to finish the chapter, to be honest. Unless I just read fast. And I'd rather like take my time. And then you guys can watch it after or something like that. I don't know. I actually don't need a break, but I have to, because I have to go somewhere. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, I'd rather not rush through it, and I would just rather take my time and like enjoy this more. So we'll get as far as we can get. I mean, we're a little bit more than half. No, we're like halfway through this chapter, and it's been about an hour since we started reading. So maybe we'll get through it. But Denethor, okay, so Denethor is confusing, a little bit more confusing to me. I'm going to say something that, it's going to be like a read and find out thing. And at the moment, I think I'm going to make you guys mad by saying this. I actually think he's more menacing in the books. Because he's smarter. And because he knows consciously what he's doing. Yes, he does this in the movies as well. But in the books, he's like using his smarts to gain information and manipulate. Yeah. He is more intimidating. He's much shrewder. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad. Guys, this actually makes me happy that you guys are actually like agreeing with me here. This is actually crazy because he's more competent. So it makes him far scarier of a character, to be honest, because he actually truly knows what he's doing. He's such an interesting character right here, though. Like, I don't know what to feel about him. I don't know if this has ever been someone like... I don't know if I've ever felt this in this book truly before. Like, in different characters, you kind of have a stronger feeling for or against them. I guess Éomer might have been initially one of those characters that you don't know about. Maybe even Theoden, but... R and FO. yeah, no spoilers, everyone. No spoilers. Thank you, Sarah, for blanking spoilers out. I'm going to make another mod to blank some spoilers out. This is kind of crazy, actually. Also, everyone, I hate to say it always, but like the stream. Get this out to more Tolkien people. Interesting stuff. Huh. Okay. Lead the Lord Mithrandir to the housing prepared for him, said Denethor, and his companion may lodge with him for the present, if he will. But be it known that I have now sworn him to my service, and he shall be known as Peregrine, son of Paladin, and taught the lesser passwords. Passwords to each of the gates? Send word to the captains that they shall wait on me here, as soon as may be after the third hour has rung. Excuse me. And you, my lord Mithrandir, shall come too, as end when you will. None shall hinder your coming to me at any time, save only in my brief hours of sleep. Let your wrath at an old man's folly run off, and then return to my comfort. What is going on here? Hold on. As soon as maybe after the third hour is rung, and you, my lord Mithrandir, shall come too. As and when you will, none shall hinder your coming to me at any time, save only in my brief hours of sleep. Let your wrath at an old man's folly run off, and then return to my comfort. Folly, said Gandalf. Nay, my lord, when you are a dotard, you will die, You can use even your grief as a cloak. Do you think that I do not understand your purpose in questioning for an hour one who knows the least, while I sit by? Denethor is conniving. If you understand it, then be content. Return Denethor. Pride would be folly that disdained help and counsel at need. But you deal out such gifts according to your own design. Yet the Lord of Gondor is not to be made a tool of other men's purposes, however worthy. And to him there is no purpose higher in the world, as it stands now, than the good of Gondor. And the rule of Gondor, my lord, is mine and no other man's, unless the king should come again. Wow. He is feisty. Unless the king should come again, said Gandalf. Well, my lord steward, it is your task to keep some kingdom still against that. It is your task to keep some kingdom still against that event, which few now look to see. In that task you shall have all the aid that you are pleased to ask for. But I will say this: the rule of no realm is mine, neither of Gondor nor any other, great or small. But all worthy things that are in peril, as the world now stands, those are my care. And for my part, I shall not wholly fail of my task, though Gondor should perish. If anything passes through this night that can still grow fair or bear fruit and flower again in days to come. For I also am a steward. Did you not know? And with that, he turned and strode from the hall with Pippen running at his side. Dude, these guys are a little spicy with each other. They don't like each other one bit. Yeah, that is an absolute mic drop moment. Did you not know? I should have read that in like a snarky voice. Dang. Yeah, Gandalf's got a little more fire in this chapter than I think I'm used to seeing in him. That is actually so interesting. All right, let's keep reading. Gandalf Rant's YouTube channel. Let me tell you again about my friend Denethor. And he would just rail him. They would definitely have internet beef with each other. Gandalf did not look at Pippin or speak a word to him as they went. Their guide brought them from the doors of the hall, and then led them across the court of the fountain into a lane between tall buildings of stone. After several turns, they came to a house close to the wall of the citadel upon the north side, not far from the shoulder that linked the hill with the mountain. Within, upon the first floor above the street, up a wide carven stair, he showed them to a fair room, light and airy, with good hangings, of dull gold sheen unfigured. It was sparely furnished, having but a small table, 2 chairs, and a bench. But at either side there were curtained alcoves, and well-clad beds within the vessels, and basins for washing. There were 3 high narrow windows that looked northward over the great curve of Anduin, still shrouded in mists, toward the Emmanuel, and Raros far away. Pippin had to climb on the bench to look out over the deep stone sill. Are you angry with me, Gandalf? He said, as their guide went out and closed the door. I did the best I could. You did indeed, said Gandalf, laughing suddenly. And he came and stood beside Pippin, putting his arm about the hobbit's shoulder and gazing out of the window. Pippin glanced in some wonder at the face now close beside his own, for the sound of that laugh had been gay and merry. Yet in the wizard's face he saw at first only lines of care and sorrow, though as he looked more intently, he perceived that under all there was a great joy, a fountain of mirth, enough to set a kingdom laughing, were it to gush forward. Huh? Pippin glanced in wonder. He glanced in some wonder at the face now close beside his own, for the sound of that laugh had been gay and merry. Yet in the wizard's face he saw at first only lines of care and sorrow, though as he looked more intently, he perceived that under all there was a great joy, a fountain of mirth enough to set a kingdom laughing, were it to gush forward. What is going on there? So he's laughing, but then Pippin looks one layer deeper and he sees that there's care and sorrow in the lines of his face. And then he looks even deeper and there's a great joy. Yeah, Gandalf is an onion. He's a layered dude. Gandalf is like an ogre. Wizards have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. He's not laughing, but Pippin can't perceive that behind his facade there is much humor. Yeah, he is very multi-layered. Yeah, almost like a parent. Like what is the sorrow there? Is the sorrow like sadness that he might die? Is it like sadness that the bird is finally leaving the nest? That is like that's a great way to look at it. I'm reading with the same confusion of Pippin. It feels very parental here. Like there's joy, but there's a lot of sorrow mixed into this joy. Huh. Parental look. Yeah, Pippin's insight to actually be able to see into the character of Gandalf there is phenomenal. And Pippin being able to Pippin's actually wildly wise in this chapter, because he perceives Denethor and Gandalf and who these characters are. Hobbits truly are the best judges of character, I think, in this book. They have the gift of that. Sam is always able to do it. Hobbits and this is like a very multi-layered chapter. This is really interesting. Hobbits really are amazing creatures, aren't they? Indeed, you did your best, said the wizard. And I hope that it may be long before you find yourself in such a tight corner again between two such terrible old men. Still, the Lord of Gondor learned more from you than you may have guessed, Pippin. You could not hide the fact that Boromir did not lead the company from Moria, and that there was one among you of high honor who was coming to Minas Tirith, and that he had a famous sword. Men think much about the stories of old days in Gondor, and Denethor has given long thought to the rhyme and to the words Isildur's bane since Boromir went away. He is not as other men of this time, he is not as other men of this time, Pippin. And whatever be his descent from father to son, By some chance, the blood of Westerness runs nearly true in him, as it does in his son Faramir. As it does in his other son Faramir, and yet did not in Boromir, whom he loved best. Do they have different moms? Is Boromir a bastard? Just genetics? Just like boring genetics of like, are we going to have to go back to that little 4-sided table? That's weird. I guess one brother can have like, I guess it's eye color. "1950s genetics." This is crazy. This is kind of cool. He can perceive if he bends his will thither. Oh, sorry, hold on. He has long sight. He can perceive if he bends his will thither much of what is passing in the minds of men, even of those that dwell far off. It is difficult to deceive him, and dangerous to try. He is so much smarter. If he's like I mean, Gandalf is probably like the wisest person that we know in the books, and Denethor is keeping up with him. If not keeping up with him, like surpassing him. Like, it's no wonder that... Well, I was going to say, like, they don't have elections, but I was going to say, like, if they had elections in Gondor, Denethor would be elected as steward easily. He seems like one of the wisest people in this thing, and he seems like he'd be a great politician. He seems like he would be such a good politician. Oh my gosh. Imagine the debate stage between Gandalf and between Denethor. Oh, that would be so entertaining. Oh my gosh. Dave, that's actually an interesting perspective. It does feel a little bit more like disposition too. It seemed like he was kind of talking about disposition in that one line. Like, Faramir has more of the disposition of the Westerness in his blood, and Boromir didn't bear it that much. Like, he had it, but he wasn't like... That's not how he lived. But I don't know. Remember that, for you are now sworn to his service. I do not know what put it into your head or your heart to do that. But it was well done. I do not hinder it, for generous deeds should not be checked by old counsel. It touched his heart, as well, may I say, as pleasing his humor. And at least you are now free to move about as you will in Minas Tirith, when you are not on duty. For there is another side to it. You are at his command, and he will not forget. Be wary still. He fell silent and sighed. Well, no need to brood on what tomorrow may bring. So he's like actually kind of proud of him in this moment. That's cute. Rather than in the movies when he's smoking his pipe and coughing, and he's literally making fun of Pippen for becoming, "You're a steward of the king now. You have to do as you're told, Peregrine Took." In this one, he's actually kind of proud of him for making this decision on his own, which is a great change. I actually think that's really cool. Yeah, Pippin's a cute little kid. Pippin's the youngest in the entire fellowship, right? I think Merry's older than him. Pippin's what, 33? I think he's 33. I think he just became an adult in Hobbit years. Beautiful, beautiful section. He fell silent and sighed. Well, no need to brood on what tomorrow may bring. For one thing, tomorrow will be certain to bring worse than today, for many days to come, and there is nothing more that I can do to help it. The board is set, and the pieces are moving. One piece that I greatly desire to find is Faramir, now the heir of Denethor. I do not think that he is in the city, but I have had no time to gather news. I must go, Pippin. I must go to this lord's council and learn what I can. But the enemy has the move, and he is about to open his full game. And pawns are likely to see as much of it as any, Peregrine, son of Paladin, soldier of Gondor. Sharpen your blade. Gandalf went to the door, and there he turned. I am in haste, Pippin, he said. Do me a favor when you go out, even before you rest if you are not too weary. Go and find Shadowfax, and see how he is housed. These people are kindly to beasts, for they are a good and wise folk, but they have less skill with horses than some. Hold on, is Gandalf going to leave Minas Tirith and go look for Faramir now? Oh, he's only 29. Interesting. So he's still a child. He's a teen in Hobbit years. So he's going to get news. So he's still going to stay in Minas Tirith. Okay. But was he talking about? He talks about I must go to this Lord's council. Is he talking about Denethor there, or is he talking about the Lord as in Faramir? I must go to this Lord's council as Denethor, yeah. Now I feel like in Hobbiton, I feel like you give a kid pipeweed when they're like 2. They start smoking when they're 2, and they start drinking ale when they're 3. This is interesting. Ooh, wow, it's 1:06. Okay, I'm definitely not going to finish this chapter, but I'll probably read like a few more pages. Where's a good stopping point? All right, I'm going to read like 2 more pages probably. Honestly, these pages it's like 15 minutes each page, which is great. I love this. This is the best. But it means I got to break up this chapter. This is a long chapter. This is a phenomenal chapter so far. With that, Gandalf went out. And as he did so, there came the note of a clear, sweet bell ringing in a tower of the citadel. 3 strokes it rang, like silver in the air, and ceased. The 3rd hour from the rising of the sun. After a minute, Pippin went to the door and down the stair, and looked about the street. The sun was now shining warm and bright, and the towers and tall houses cast long, clear-cut shadows westward. High in the blue air, Mount Mindalluin lifted its white helm and snowy cloak. Armed men went to and fro in the ways of the city, as if going at the striking of the hour to change of post and duty. 9 o'clock we'd call it in the Shire, said Pippin aloud to himself. Just the time for a nice breakfast by the open window in the spring sunshine. And how I should like breakfast. Do these people ever have it? Or is it over? And when do they have dinner, and where? Presently he noticed a man clad in black and white, coming along the narrow street from the center of the citadel toward him. Pippin felt lonely, and made up his mind to speak as the man passed, but he had no need. The man came straight up to him. You are Peregrine the Halfling, he said. I am told that you have been sworn to the service of the Lord and of the city, Welcome. He held out his hand and Pippin took it. I am named Baragond, son of Baranor. I have no duty this morning, and I have been sent to you to teach you the passwords, and to tell you some of the many things that no doubt you will wish to know. And for my part, I would learn of you also, for never before have we seen a halfling in the land, though we have heard rumors of them. Little is said of them in any tale that we know. Moreover, you are a friend of Mithrandir. Do you know him well? Well, said Pippin, I have known of him all my short life, as you might say. And lately I have traveled far with him. But there is much to read in that book, and I cannot claim to have seen more than a page or two. Yet perhaps I know him as well as any but a few. Aragorn was the only one of our company, I think, who really knew him. Aragorn, said Baragond. Who is he? Oh, stammered Pippin. He was a man who went about with us. I think he is in Rohan now. You have been in Rohan, I hear? There is much that I would ask of you of that land also, for we put much of what little hope we have in its people. But I am forgetting my errand, which was first to answer what you would ask. What would you know, Master Peregrine? He's going to ask about food. He's 100% going to ask about food. Ah, so you guys like Baragond. All right, Baragond. I like Baragond so far. Don't know much about Baragond, but he's kind. He's nice. He speaks in a kind way to him, which I love. But we'll see. We'll see what my opinion of Baragond is. Baragond is the hero? Whoa, I like this. Okay, hopefully we'll get... Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously get more Baragond. All right, let's see if he asks for food here. Well, said Pippin, if I may venture to say so, rather a burning question in my mind as at present is, well, what about breakfast and all that? I mean, what are the meal times, if you understand me? And where is the dining room, if there is one? And the inns? I looked, but never a one could I see as we rode up, though I had been borne up by the hope of a draught of ale as soon as we came to the homes of wise and courtly men. Baragond looked at him gravely. An old campaigner, I see, he said. They say that men who go warring afield look ever to the next hope of food and of drink, though I am not a traveled man myself. Then you have not eaten today? Well, yes, to speak in courtesy, yes, said Pippin, but no more than a cup of wine, and a white cake or two by the kindness of your lord. But he racked me for it with an hour of questions, and that is hungry work. Baragond laughed. At the table small men may do the greater deeds, we say. But you have broken your fast as well as any man in the citadel, and with great honor. This is a fortress and a tower guard, and is now in posture of war. We rise ere the sun, and take a morsel in the grey light, and go to our duties at the opening hour. But do not despair, he laughed again, seeing the dismay in Pippin's face. Those who have had heavy duty take somewhat to refresh their strength in the mid-morning. Then there is the nuncheon. Nuncheon? At noon? Like a noon luncheon? Did Tolkien just make up a word, or is this actually a word? I've never heard of nuncheon before. At noon or after as duties allow. And men gather for the day meal, and such mirth as there still may be, about the hour of sunset. Nuncheon? Convents? A noon luncheon is a nuncheon. Yeah, this is a very Hobbit way of talking. Interesting. Similar to nunchucks. I like Baragond. Come, we will walk a little, and then go find us some refreshment, and eat and drink on the battlement, and survey the fair morning. One moment, said Pippin, blushing. Greed or hunger by your courtesy put it out of my mind. But Gandalf, Mithrandir, as you call him, asked me to see to his horse, Shadowfax, a great steed of Rohan, and the apple of the king's eye. I am told, though he has given him to Mithrandir for his service. I think his new master loves the beast better than he loves many men. And if his goodwill is of any value to the city, you will treat Shadowfax with all honor, with greater kindness than you have treated this hobbit, if possible. Hobbit, said Baragond. That is what we call ourselves, said Pippin. I love that he doesn't, like, Baragond, he just doesn't seem like a traveled man, so he's like, what's a hobbit? I don't know what this is. And he's, like, impressed that he's, like, hungry. I am glad to learn it, said Baragond, for now I may say that strange accents do not mar fair speech, and hobbits are fair-spoken folk. But come, you shall make me acquainted with this good horse. I love beasts, and we see them seldom in this stony city, for my people came from the mountain vales, and before that from Ithilien. But fear not, the visit shall be short, a mere call of courtesy, and we will go thence to the butteries. To the buteries. I feel like this is always the case. A Glasgowian accent. I feel like this is always the case with Tolkien. If someone likes animals, you can trust them. I mean, it's true in a lot of writing. I want to write an essay about Baragond. I don't know really about what yet, but there's something in there. Yeah, anyone who loves horses. Horses are his favorite animal, for sure. Except for the cat. Yeah, that's actually a great point. That is actually a great point. Yeah, 10 more pages in your book? It's about 10. We have this much. Come on, focus. Where's my focus point? It's not working. That much. There's about 10 pages. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it. Got like a half hour. Definitely won't be able to finish 10 pages in a half hour. I don't know if I can actually like legitimately just read 10 pages in a half an hour. I am a very, very slow reader. Like painfully slow. Which I don't mind anymore. I used to hate that about myself. But now I don't mind it. We'll read another page. Another page or two. Okay, I'll keep going, at least for one other page. There's another little stop point there. We'll see how much time we have. Pippin found that Shadowfax had been well housed and tended. For in the sixth circle outside the walls of the citadel, there were some fair stables where a few swift horses were kept, hard by the lodgings of the errand riders of the Lord. Messengers always ready to go at the urgent command of Denethor or his chief captains. But now all the horses and the riders were out and away. Shadowfax whinnied as Pippin entered the stable and turned his head. "Ah, good morning," said Pippin. "Gandalf will come as soon as he may. He is busy, but he sends greetings. And I am to see that all is well with you. And you resting, I hope, after your long labors." Shadowfax tossed his head and stamped, but he allowed Baragond to handle his head gently and stroked his great flanks. He looked as if he were spoiling for a race, and not newly come from a great journey, said Baragond. How strong and proud he is. Where is his harness? It should be rich and fair. None is rich and fair enough for him, said Pippin. He will have none, if he will be content to bear you. Bear you he does, and if not, well, no bit, bridle, bridle, whip, or thong will tame him. Farewell, Shadowfax. Have patience. Battle is coming. Shadowfax lifted up his head and neighed, so that the stable shook, and they covered their ears. And they took their leave, seeing that the manger was well filled. How does a horse neigh so that it shakes a stable? Yeah. Tell your surgeon to wait, Macpack. Does he not understand Lord of the Rings is more important than surgery? If it's your surgery, I really hope it goes well. He's a very cool horse. This is okay, so this is a part that I really like in the book. Maybe my favorite part of the chapter so far. Because it feels like a side quest. And through this one instance, you get a real clear, maybe not a clear depiction of Baragond, but you get a really good indication of who he is as a character. Very similar to Hama. Like, one of the things that I loved most about Hama was his enthusiasm. Oh, rest in peace, Hama. That actually makes me sad. But I loved his enthusiasm. When the king was healed, he runs off to go get Éomer. But he runs off to go get the sword, and then he gets Éomer with him, and Éomer brings the sword. And this is another good moment that you have here, too. Like, Tolkien is really good at, if he introduces a character that is probably like a side character, like a secondary character, he does a really good job of giving you and that character a moment to understand who this character is. Hama was an enthusiastic person who was just so excited that his king had returned. And just through that story alone, you knew so much about him. This is that story for Baragond. I think it's a really similar story in that, like, he and Pippen go on this little side quest to go hang out with Shadowfax. And I love Pippen here, that he's like talking to Shadowfax in this way. And then all I see is Baragond, like, in awe, just like scratching his butt right here. Not his own butt, scratching Shadowfax's butt. Or his back legs, but really his butt. That's what I do with Wes. I give him a little butt scratch. What's up, bud? Wes is just laying on the bed right now. So, Baragond better than Hama? I don't know. Hama's still one of my favorite side characters ever. I love Hama so much. Hama's my guy. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to beat Hama. I loved his enthusiasm. May he rest in peace forever. But Baragond, I love this little moment that you get with him. Like, that's what I'm going to write about Baragond. And how does a horse's neigh shake a stable? That's kind of cool. I like that. All right, let's keep reading. I'm not reading a ton of this because I don't want any Baragond spoilers. So I'm not really reading any of this. What's up, Wes? You can come say hi to everyone? And now for our manger, said Baragond. And he led Pippin back to the citadel, and so to a door in the north side of the great tower. There they went down a long, cool stair into a wide alley lit with lamps. There were hatches in the wall at the side, and one of these was open. This is the storehouse and buttery of my company, of the guard, said Baragond. Greetings, Targon, he called through the hatch. It is early yet, but here is a newcomer that the Lord has taken into his service. He has ridden long and far with a tight belt and has sore labor this morning, and he is hungry. Give us what you have. They got there bread and butter and cheese and apples. The last of the winter store, wrinkled but sound and sweet. and a leather flagon of new-drawn ale, and wooden platters and cups. They put all into a wicker basket and climbed back into the sun. Are they going to go on a picnic together? No way. I love this. They put all into a wicker basket and climbed back into the sun. And Baragond brought Pippen to a place at the east end of the great outthrust battlement, where there was an embrasure in the walls with a stone seat beneath the sill. From there they could look out on the morning over the world. That's beautiful. And he's thoughtful too that he's taking him here to an embrasure where Pippin can actually look over too. They ate and drank, and they talked now of Gondor and its ways and customs, now of the Shire and the strange countries that Pippin had seen. And ever as they had talked, Baragond was more amazed and looked with greater wonder at the hobbit swinging his short legs as he sat on the seat, standing tiptoe upon it to peer over the sill at the lands below. I will not hide from you, Master Peregrine, said Baragond. I will not hide from you, Master Peregrine, said Baragond, that to us you look almost as one of our children, a lad of 9 summers or so. And yet you have endured perils and seen marvels that few of our graybeards could boast of. I thought it was the whim of our Lord to take him a noble page, after the manner of the kings of old, they say. But I see that it is not so, and you must pardon my foolishness. I do, said Pippin, though you are not far wrong. I am still a little more than a boy in the reckoning of my own people, and it will be 4 years before I come of age, as we say in the Shire. But do not bother about me. Come and look and tell me what I can see. This is lovely. This is actually incredible. I really like Baragond. Curious we're going to get more of him. I think I'm going to stop here. I think I'm going to come back and finish this reading later, because I only have like 15 minutes before I'm going to try to get out. And I don't want to just rush and try to finish this chapter. You have like 10 pages left right now. That'd be like a good like night read. I'm thinking like it might be like 8 o'clock tonight. Probably like 8 o'clock tonight. That's my guess. I don't know for sure, but it'll be around then, like 8-ish. Yeah, around 8. Yeah, this is too much fun to rush. I like taking my time. I do like doing all these in like one sitting, so that if you're like watching the VOD, you can just kind of like sit back and relax and watch it. But a part 2 is not bad for long chapters. I think this is one of the longest chapters in this book. And it's the first one. Actually, let me check that. Let me see the audiobook, how the readings of all this. Audible. All right, this chapter is... Yeah, this is the longest chapter in the book. The second longest is chapter 4. Then you have chapter 8 of book 6 is long. And then a few in book 2, or a few in book 6 are pretty long. But this is the longest chapter in the book. So why not break it up and just chill? Enjoy this reading even slower and more. The second longest chapter in The Lord of the Rings. Third if you count the Silmarillion. Interesting. So the longest is the Council of Elrond, right? I think that was like 2 hours. Uh-oh. Did anybody else's stream just bust? It said not enough memory to open this page. I don't know what just happened. I think we're good. I think we're still live. We'll do it live. Okay, I think we're good. All right, good. We're fine. All right, yeah, that's a good stopping point. I'm gonna come back and read this later. It's a great start to this book. A lot of new I have lots of thoughts on this chapter so far. It's like a I'd probably say it's one of his more complex chapters because you're deciphering two of the wisest people, it seems, in Middle-earth and their conversation back and forth to each other. And I love that Pippen of the Shire, son of Paladin, is wise enough being a hobbit that he knows how to decipher these things, and he knows the depths of both of these people and the wisdom of both of these people. It's a really cool little note. That's actually fantastic. By length. Council of Elrond, chapter 23 of the Silmarillion, and then Minas Tirith is the third. Interesting. This book is the most different from the movie. Yeah, the book is written from the Hobbit's view. I feel like a hobbit. An intro into Gondor. Yeah, Gondorian culture is actually so interesting too. Yeah, that's a really great point because we are getting it from a Hobbit's perspective. So I think a Hobbit's perspective is kind of the general reader's perspective. Like we're looking at this thing and we're trying to decipher the conversation and see what's happening. And Pippin is seeing all sorts of emotions and like wrinkles in people's faces and like looks that people are giving each other. And he's trying to figure this out. And Pippin does have like the extra little bit of complexity. He's like, the noble born. So he's not quite as black and white as Sam would be. If Sam was writing this chapter, he would say there was nothing good about that old Denethor who sat on his throne with his horn. No good look in his eye. He would say something, like that. He's very black and white. From the very first impression that he would have of Denethor, he wouldn't like him. But then maybe he'd slowly start to like him a little bit because it does say he has a warm smile. He's one of those characters that I think Sam would initially hate him, and then maybe Sam would start to like him more. But actually, I kind of doubt that. I don't think so because he's almost too complex of a character. Pippin is a low-key, rich, spoiled kid. He really is. I've heard that, again, one of my favorite memes came from how all the fellowship is all, like, noble births, and they're all, like, rich kids. And the only one that's not is Sam, which is why we all love Sam. It's so good. Okay, everyone. I'm actually gonna hold on. Give me a second. I'm gonna open Photoshop and set up the stream right now. I gotta just make a thumbnail that just says part 2. Hopefully I didn't delete that image. But yeah, I'm still live, and I haven't even finished the chapter. That's how wild this is. We're like halfway through the chapter. But I'm going to finish reading later. Dude, wild times. This is a long chapter. Yeah, if you watch the stream tomorrow, I wish I could like cater more to some Australian audiences, but unless I stream in the middle of the night, I don't know if that's happening. Hold on, I gotta figure out this. Now I need the live label. Reading Minas Tirith. And I'm just gonna put part 2. part 2 with a space. I could do a midnight stream. My downstairs neighbor would probably hate me, but I could. Come on, here we go. We have met Baragond. We were talking about Baragond with his similarity, not similarity, but like side character similarity to Hama, my all-time favorite. We'll see if I like Baragond more than Hama. I think Hama still is my favorite side character in all of Tolkien. Ooh, Tolkien rants. Working on a Denethor video. I love that. Enjoy. Yeah. Tonight we're gonna repick this up tonight, and it's gonna be at 8. That's my final guess. That's my final offer. So let me finish this real quick, and I'll post. Hold on. Actually, everyone, hold on. You all are subscribed to the channel. You can find it pretty quick, I'm sure. But give me a sec. There we go. Yeah, at 8 o'clock we'll start it tonight at 8. And I wish I could do the whole thing in one sitting, but it's only been 2.5 hours. I wish we could do more. But yeah, I'll see you guys tonight at 8. 8's the time. I'm gonna post the I'm gonna throw up the upcoming stream right after I end the stream. So go hang out on that until 8 o'clock. But have a good middle of the day, everyone, and everyone say goodbye to Galadriel. You can go to sleep, Israel. You can go to sleep and then all of a sudden wake up in time for the next stream. That's wild stuff going on here. All right, everyone. I'm just gonna play this for a quick minute before I go. We'll see you guys later.